At a suburban home in Seattle, Washington, two friends, Katie Embry and Becca Kotler, discuss their town's resident legend of a cursed videotape in Katie's room. Whoever watches it dies 7 days later. Katie claims she watched the tape a week ago with her boyfriend, Josh Turandot, and two other friends, Stacy Miller and Scott Conroy. Minutes later, she is killed by an unseen force. At Katie's funeral, her aunt, Rachel Keller, speaks to Katie's mother, Ruth Embry, about her death, and both are clueless as to why she died so suddenly. Rachel begins to investigate her death. Rachel lives with her young son, Aiden. Rachel learns that Josh, Stacy, and Scott, who also viewed the tape, all died on the same night as Katie, all with disfigured appearances, and all at the same time of 10 p.m. Rachel travels to Shelter Mountain and where the four stayed, discovering the cursed videotape. In the cabin where the four stayed, cabin 12, Rachel watches the tape, which contains monotone, disturbing imagery. Once the tape ends, Rachel receives a phone call from an unknown caller who whispers, 7 days. Rachel recruits Noah Clay, her ex-boyfriend and Aiden's father, to study the tape, making a copy after he watches the original. Rachel begins to experience supernatural phenomena as the week passes, haunted by a young girl with soaking wet long black hair. Investigation into the tape's imagery leads Rachel to Anna Morgan, a horse breeder from Moscow Island, who committed suicide after her prize-winning horses drowned themselves. After a strange nightmare, she awakens to having a hand-shaped burn mark on her left arm. Once out of bed, Rachel finds Aiden watching the tape, and discovers that Noah is also experiencing supernatural occurrences. Rachel travels to Moscow Island to speak to Anna's widower, Richard. On the ferry journey, a horse leaps to its death after it gets spooked by Rachel's presence. Noah goes to Yola County Psychiatric Hospital to view Anna's medical files. Both separately discover Anna had an adopted daughter, Samara, who was able to psychically etch mental images onto surfaces and into people's and animals' minds. Rachel tries to speak with Richard about Samara, but he denies her existence. Rachel speaks with Dr. Grasnick, the island's general practitioner, who explains Samara was adopted due to Anna's infertility, and that Anna had only been seeing horrible things only when she was around Samara, thus recommending them to admit her to the Yola County Psychiatric Hospital. Later on, Rachel sneaks into the Morgan farmhouse, finding and playing a VHS tape of Samara in a psychotherapy session. In said session, she claims she cannot control her abilities, and admits that she wants to hurt her parents because they love the horses more than they love her. Sometime after the taped psychotherapy sessions, Samara drove all the horses to suicide. After the tape ends, Richard strikes Rachel with a horse bridle, taking the TV upstairs. Rachel follows Richard, confronting him as she walks up the stairs. She follows him into the bathroom, where he connects several electronic devices to a single power source and wires them to the bridle through an electrical strip, bites down on it, and steps into the flooded bathtub. Having been severely mentally scarred by Samara, and having learned Samara is still at large, he electrocutes himself to death. Noah arrives, calming Rachel, and the two break their way into the barn, where Samara was kept isolated. They find a burnt image of a tree under the wallpaper of her barn bedroom, which Rachel recognizes from Shelter Mountain. They return to the inn at cabin 12, still feeling stuck at a roadblock. Frustrated, Noah pulls the phone out of the wall, knocking a vase of marbles to the floor. The marbles roll to a dip in the floor, which then leads them to discover burnt wood. Noah gets a fire axe and breaks through the floor, finding a stone well under the floorboards, the final image on the tape. Rachel falls in the well after the floor collapses, experiencing a vision of Anna suffocating Samara and throwing her down the well where she died 7 days later, her last sight being the titular ring of daylight around the well's cap. Samara's corpse surfaces after Noah tells Rachel that the 7-day deadline has passed. The authorities assure the pair that Samara's corpse will be properly buried. The next day, Rachel tells Aiden that the curse has been lifted by liberating Samara. A distressed Aiden tells Rachel that it was a mistake to help Samara, saying that she never sleeps. At his apartment, Noah is killed by the vengeful ghost of Samara. Rachel, upon finding his disfigured corpse, returns home and destroys the original tape, wondering why Noah was killed but she was not. She realizes that unlike Noah, she made a copy of the tape. As Rachel assists Aiden in making a copy of the tape, Aiden asks what will happen to the person who watches the new tape, but Rachel does not answer.